What's up, y'all? It's John Masterly. What I want to talk with you all about today is a really controversial scenario that's happening right now on YouTube. Fellow reactor out there. Some of you might have heard of the channel MxR Plays, which has nearly 1 million subscribers. And what they specialize in is doing reactions to a bunch of memes, funny videos, and things like that. You might know them as Henry and Jeannie, and I do love watching them. Not just because they have great chemistry together, but they seem also like genuinely good people. It kind of reminds me a little bit of myself and Lulu, though perhaps 20 years younger. Well, they got caught up in a huge copyright problem because what they do is react to a lot of video clips that they scour online, predominantly from Reddit, and they add their own commentary to it. Because of this type of format, they've run into copyright issues before where the channel has been issued copyright strikes. But this particular case is a little bit more problematic because of a threat from a company called Jukin Media. Now, a number of different commenters out there have already made videos about this, and people have taken different stances, predominantly in the favor of Henry and Jeannie. What I want to do is talk about this from another angle here, because I think people are getting two things confused, and that's the difference between whether or not this is considered fair use and whether or not this is considered extortion. So if you want a full rundown of the whole situation, I'm including a couple of links in the description that you could take a look at because it is really fascinating. Not just because I really like Henry and Jeannie, but also because something like this potentially has huge impact to a lot of other small YouTubers out there, including myself. So let's break this down into the simplest possible way so that you don't have to suffer through a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. Now, what seems to have happened here is that Jukin Media has the licensing rights to all sorts of different viral videos. They go and find the original creators, gets the rights to those videos, and other types of creators or media outlets can then license the rights to use those videos. Well, Jukin Media also has a team of over a dozen people that goes across the internet and tries to find other creators out there who happen to be using their content, and then notifies these creators that, hey, you can't do that unless you pay a licensing fee. Well, the problem here is that Jukin not only has served up a warning to Henry and Jeannie, but they serve it up in a way that comes across like a threat to shut down their channel. Because on YouTube, if you get 3 strikes, 3 copyright claims, if you will, that result in a strike, your channel can be instantly taken down. You lose everything. You basically lose your livelihood. Now, this is not the first time that Henry has run into an issue with Jukin Media. In fact, previously, a couple years ago, they actually got a similar type of notice and ended up paying for the rights to use. And this wasn't just a $50 usage fee. He paid well over $1,000 some for the rights, thinking that this will make everything clear. Well, it seemed like right after that happened, a copyright strike was still issued from Jukin Media. And then as time has progressed, it looks like Jukin Media continues to scour through his videos, looking for another opportunity to fleece him. Now, an interesting question has raised of whether or not this type of video that Henry and Jeannie are creating is considered fair use. Now, fair use is a complicated law. Well, in essence, what it does is it gives creators an opportunity to use licensed work if it's for specific type of scenarios, whether it's news reporting, adding commentary, doing reviews, and yes, even reaction videos qualify as part of fair use. Now, the problem here is that this is still a huge gray area because fair use has to satisfy 4 different criteria. And even if you satisfy some of those criteria, it can still be considered fair use. You don't have to satisfy all of them. And in fact, there was a case very similar to what's been happening here with Henry and Jeannie back a few years ago. Some of you may remember Ray William Johnson, a really popular YouTuber. Well, he used to do similar types of reactions for a company called Equals3. And they got into a legal tussle with Jukin Media regarding something very, very similar. And in that particular case, the judge readily admits that fair use is probably the most complex area of copyright law. And in fact, it's so complex that you really have to evaluate each instance on its own. In other words, despite what happened in the outcome of that case, you really have to treat your particular instance as another scenario where you have to evaluate it on its own. Now, if you're interested in that particular case, I also included a link to a website run by a lawyer named Leonard French, and he does a great job breaking it down. It's a long video, but it's really fascinating. In essence, what ended up happening was that out of all the different particular videos that were brought up, some of them were treated as fair use, and one of them did not fall within it. Now, what's ironic is that this particular case was brought up by Jukin Media as one of the reasons why they have to go out of their way to protect these rights. Even though if you go back and look at this case, the judge actually sided with the other party were mostly considered fair use. So whether or not the issues that Henry and Jeannie are running into is considered fair use, well, the only way to truly know if this goes in front of a judge and they've got these particular scenarios to determine in court whether or not it's valid. But like I said, given the precedent of this previous case, chances are Henry and Jeannie does have a fair case. To me, the issue here isn't about whether or not this is considered fair use or not, because I think there's something else that is happening here, and that is around what I think a lot of YouTubers who are doing commentary on this situation are saying is a form of extortion. Now, extortion seems like an easy concept to grasp. The definition here that I'm reading is obtaining benefit through coercion. In most jurisdictions, it likely constitutes a criminal offense. So let's dig into this a little bit here. The communications back and forth between Jukin Media and Henry does come across like a scenario where Jukin is threatening to issue enough copyright strikes to kill Henry's career here on YouTube. And Jukin is basically saying you need to pay us not just the licensing fee anymore, but a retroactive usage fee up to $6,000. Getting copyright strikes isn't a legal issue here. This is a policy that YouTube has put in place. A policy that, quite frankly, is problematic and really needs to be addressed because it's such a hard stop. So many YouTubers fear this because once you get those 3 strikes, there feels like very little recourse. There is no arbitration. There is no review by a human team. It just comes across like some automated system that kicks in from YouTube, in which case, once you're kicked off, that's it. You can lose everything. And this has happened before to a number of different reactors over the years. So what this comes across like is a company that recognizes that what they can do is shake down small YouTubers with this threat. Now, in of itself, being aggressive about protecting your copyrights isn't something that is illegal. What you can realize here is that they have an area that they can play within that doesn't require them to actually go to court for most claims, and it doesn't require them to have to deal with YouTube, where they can threaten all these different YouTubers to pay up. Now, what makes this even more problematic is that Jukin has a library of about 60,000 videos, all these short clips, all in their database that is quite frankly very difficult to comb through and find the matching content that you might be using. To make it even worse, Jukin Media doesn't watermark any of their videos, so it actually makes it very hard for people to instantly know if this is a video that Jukin Media has the rights to. And these aren't videos that have famous people or famous logos or famous brands of them. These are the kind of videos you see on America's Funniest Home Videos. Pratfalls, pranks, things that just happen in real life that people capture on their cell phone. You would never know that a company owns the rights to those. In addition, Jukin Media has ran into problems before with the last legal case where they didn't get the copyrights in place for 17 out of the 19 videos that they were suing Equals 3 for. So in other words, it seems like Jukin Media doesn't actually seem to be protecting the copyrights. It seems to me that there's a lot more money to be made here in going around the internet, finding people who accidentally use their videos and threatening them with a $1,500 fee, knowing full well that most of these people were going to pay up in some shape or form because the cost of litigation is going to be a lot more than that. Now, if you remember what I said, because every fair use scenario has to be reviewed on its own, that means that every one of these people who wants to eventually say, you know what, I want to protect my rights, even if I have the money to go and spend on this kind of scenario, whatever the outcome of that case is unlikely to become legal precedent that you can use to help protect other YouTubers in the future, which means that Jukin Media will continue to be able to threaten other people, knowing full well that each individual person is basically on their own. Jukin Media doesn't seem like a company that actually manages content. What they come across like is a company built on taking advantage of this hole in the legal system where the YouTubers they threaten are willing to fork over a couple $1,000s at a time to try to avoid the more costly alternative of legal fees and court battles. This comes across like predatory behavior. And in fact, Leonard French consulted with a couple lawyers that he works with that he knows, and this common theme around unethical and unfair business practices keeps coming up. And that is something that is going to get Jukin Media into hot water. What we now know is that Jukin Media is not actually a company that is built on a solid foundation of protecting the rights of the licenses that they hold. And in fact, from the previous court case, 17 out of the videos that they were suing for never had the copyrights filed for those videos. And then second, when Jukin Media was asked to prepare the kind of financial harm that reactors cause by taking their videos, they didn't provide any. So that's the summary of it all. An interesting question of, is this considered fair use? And also an interesting question of, is this considered extortion? And in both scenarios right now, it does not look favorable for Jukin Media. One, because of the precedent that they had regarding a previous case that was very similar. And then second, their actions following up with Henry and Jeannie that reveals a very threatening nature of what they're willing to do. Now, before you leave comments below in terms of what you think, because I've seen a lot of comments right now in different videos about this from people, it doesn't matter if you watch MxR because you like Jeannie and Henry. You consider the videos and the memes and the clips that they react to as secondary. If they included those clips and they didn't have the rights to them, that's an issue. And then second, it doesn't matter if you think reaction videos is the lowest form of entertainment, that if you think it's simply lazy repurposing of content that other people created. At this point, reaction videos, reviews, commentary are all part of what YouTube considers to be fair use. So yes, let me know what you think, you all.